Hi and welcome to RCKicks. On today's show, well, we're going to be building up this from Tamiya, the BT01. Now, I'm going to be doing this in front wheel drive setup, as I did a build recently of the FF01 that Tamiya produced years ago. If you haven't seen that, I'll put a link up here. It's for the Ford Mondeo. So we had a car from way back when, and we have a car that's just been released by Tamiya. So I wanted to see if they've actually improved. So we're going to build this up as front wheel drive, and then we're going to compare the two. But being that it's going to be front wheel drive, this body doesn't really work, does it? So I've ordered another body that kind of works a little bit better with a front wheel drive car. But I do plan to actually raffle this one off. I'll put a link in the description if you'd be interested in a chance to win this. But you'll be getting two bodies. You'll be getting this body. Not sure if I'm going to go box art, maybe, we'll see. And another body that I've got. So you'll be able to pick and choose whether you want to keep it in front wheel drive or change it, as this kit can be in rear wheel drive or front wheel drive. Right, so in this episode, the plan is we're going to build up all the chassis and maybe fit some of the electronics. And then the future video for this one, we'll paint up two bodies. Yes, I will be painting up two bodies simultaneously, and then we'll finish the electronics. And then hopefully the plan is to compare the BT01 against the old FF01 without breaking the bodies, hopefully. Right, let's stay tuned. Let's unbox it, lay it all out, and crack on and get that chassis built. Right, so the first thing we need to do is lay everything out before we can start building it. And there's a lot of parts, yeah. Tamiya seems to have thrown the kitchen sink at this one. You can have rear wheel drive motor on the front wheel drive with motor at the front, rear motor, rear wheel drive, yeah. And the manuals kind of reflect that. They are a mess. Yeah, I really struggled with the manuals, but I'll talk about that a little bit later. Right, so the first thing we need to do is get the spur and pinion done. That was kind of easy enough once you'd figured out which version you needed, as you needed to set up different versions depending on what setup you're going for. The diff, ultra basic, yes, tons of bushes. Actually, I think I found one bearing, but I'm not sure if that was from me or whether it was in the kit. Anyway, we'll skip over that. Now the diff, very basic, all plastic. Obviously you can upgrade this if you want to, and I'm pretty sure you may be able to make this a four-wheel drive kit, but I'll talk about that a little bit later. Yeah, slop. Now I've watched a few videos on other people that have been working on this car, and there's quite a lot of slop, especially at the ends of the arms, moving forward and backwards towards the chassis and out. Yeah, not overly impressed. Also, the plastic bushes, yeah, those, well, whatever you call them, the round little ones that go through the uprights there, not great. This car is kind of full of a lot of slop. When you put the diff into the end of the chassis, you've got to put it the correct way. On the bottom of the chassis is the little tiny letter for front and rear, so you've got to make sure you get the orientation correctly, otherwise you're going to have to go back and change it. Not that that's a big problem, whereas this is a big problem. Friction shocks, and they're awful. Why Tamiya is putting friction shocks in any of their kits now, I just don't know. Also, when we look at the car, because you can set it up in so many different ways, the chassis is a bit of a hodgepodge mess. Can't say I really liked it. I think with a bit of tuning, we'll be able to improve its performance. That's not really what I'm worried about. It's just, it's not a good looking chassis. Sorry if you like this one, but for me, the prop shaft was the weirdest kind of idea. It's I'll show you in a little bit. We'll talk about it a bit more at the end of the video. The steering, not too much of an issue there. That went together okay. Yeah, it's just a bit of a weird kind of mess of bits. That's what I can say. Now, swapping it from one calibration to the other is actually quite easy. So if you wanted to keep it front motor rear wheel drive, it's not tons of work to swap it over. You can see it's bouncing around all over the place here. That's those rubbish friction shocks. So there's a lot to unpack from this one. I didn't really go into too much detail on the chassis build, as it's been out for a while, and it is a bit all over the place. The instructions, yeah, the instructions you get are not just you go and pick the setup you want and then just work through it. And then further in the manual is the other setup. What they've done is they've tried to give you extra manuals that allow you to transform it from one to the other as well. And I personally just found that way too confusing. So while I was building it up, really there was a lot of guessworks and just jumping around looking for the part that I kind of knew it was going to be, and then referencing overview images. So for me, I did actually struggle quite a lot with the actual following the manual as it was supposed to be. So for someone who's brand new to never building before, I would probably go with something else to start you off. Otherwise, you may, like me, just get really confused with all these pieces of paper that reference going to different places, and you just want to build it all the way through. And it was only my experience of kind of going, oh, I know that's kind of right, looking through going, okay, that's the next section. So yeah, the manual, personally, not that great. Now, I get what Tamiya are trying to do. They're trying to offer one chassis that can do everything. Different wheelbases, different motor positions, front wheel drive, rear wheel drive, and I'm pretty sure you can make this four wheel drive. There's no reason why you couldn't just attach a back prop and then get a second diff and then run it in four wheel drive. And because it's trying to do all these things, there's tons of compromises here, but the main one is it's just sloppy. I mean, insanely sloppy. So what I did was I actually went back and I started looking at the slop, and the biggest one for me first, as there's a list, you've got to work your way down them, is the arms moving in and out on the pivot points. Now, I found in my parts bin some washers. Now these are 10mm wide, 5mm space in the middle, and they're 1mm thick, and that fitted brilliantly. And I could actually get rid of all the forward and backward slop in the arms without getting any binding. So that was perfect. If you want to, and you can, I would get them, but maybe get them in 0.5 and then put one at each end. Because when you put it at one end, you're pushing the arms in one direction more than the others. So, but I had these, cost me nothing. Also, the next one down is the slop from in and out, from the drive cups on the outside of the wheel where you put the pin and the hex. Again, there's another mil gap, so the actual face of the wheel moves in and out. So I used the same shim and put it on, and that's actually got rid of the in and out slop. So the two slops I've removed so far is the in and out and the forward and backwards. Now the toe in, toe out one is caused by the actual ball joint, as well as the top and bottom mounts. So you can get alloy rose washers, whatever you call those little ball things, you can get alloy ones of those, which I will get, and I'll try and get rid of that slop as well. Then the turn in and turn out slop is also from the actual tie rods, because you've got this ball cup, this slop in the ball joints. So you've got now like toe in, toe out slop, and then you've kind of got slop like that from the rose joints, whatever you want to call those balls. So I will get those. Ideally, what would be nice to do is to change those tie rod ends, ball cup ends, to fixed ones, like the Schumacher ones or something like that. That, I think, would then get rid of all the slop. But a lot of this slop shouldn't even be here in the first place, especially the arms being 1mm. I mean, that's just, yeah, to be 1mm out, yeah, there's no reason for it. You know, even if it's a case of they couldn't change, these arms are for something else and that's set, and they couldn't do a whole new mold for them, put the spacers in. Just add the spacers so that people can put it in instead of sourcing it themselves. Driving this in front wheel drive, the rear of the car is going to be wandering all over the place, and the front, I haven't done the front yet, and it's just not good enough, Tamiya. I'm sorry. Yes, we can fix it, but you're supposed to be the ones doing this, not just going, good enough, send it out. They can figure it out for themselves. Which leads me on to the next thing, friction shocks. These are just, I mean, there is no place for friction shocks in a car of this price point or scale. It's just bad form, and then you've got to go and try and source some new ones, and then that's going to cost you a bit of money. I will try and find some. There's quite a few options available, but then they get quite expensive because you're buying them as an individual pack versus them just being priced into the kit. So it has lots of potential. The only thing from my side is, yes, they've given you lots of configuration options, but realistically you're going to end up settling on one and then you're never really going to change it. So is it really a benefit? I don't know. We'll have to see. Anyway, on a more positive note, I've managed to get hold of a new body, which is this one. It's the Opal Calibra V6 Cliff. Now, my plan. Now, bear with me. There is logic-ish. Now, I've done it in front-wheel drive. So, obviously, the Toyota Supra is rear-wheel drive, so you can't really put that on it. Granted, you can change it back and then it will work. So, I wanted to get a body that's kind of a bit more related to front-wheel drive. And the one I found that I could get hold of quite easily was this, the Opal Calibra, as all Calibras were front-wheel drive, the road cars. This is where it gets a little bit iffy. The actual race cars were modified to run four-wheel drive. So this car actually in real life was four-wheel drive, not front-wheel drive. But you can modify this to make it four-wheel drive. So that's my logic. I know it's a little bit shaky, but we'll go with it. And obviously this one is going to be up for raffles, so someone's going to win this. So my plan, and I think it's a pretty good one, I'm going to paint both these bodies up. Now I'm going to do the Calibra in box art with the Cliff decals on it, but I've decided what I'm going to do with the Toyota Supra, as it's just a standard kind of colour, I'm going to paint it up as a support car. So I've picked up some additional decals, the Cliff decals, and I'm going to paint this body up in the same kind of livery as if it's a support car. So the winner of this is going to get, hopefully I'm going to be able to sort this car out a little bit for you. You're going to get two bodies with this one. So you can decide what you want to do. You can run it in, you could modify it yourself and make it four-wheel drive. You can keep it front-wheel drive like it is now and then run the DTM body. You can also run it as rear-wheel drive and then you can run it with the Toyota Supra. So you'll be able to pick and choose whatever you want, but you will win both bodies painted up and the car, maybe with a few modifications to try and help you get rid of some of that slop. So there you go. So comment below, am I being too harsh? I would like to say to Tamiya, I think you can do better on this one. Anyway, thanks very much. Please like and subscribe, and all the links are in the description below. Massive thanks to Model Tune for sponsoring this video. If you'd like to get 5% off everything, you can use RCKicks at checkout, link in the description. Thanks very much. See you on the next one. Bye-bye.